start the recording there, and then I'll just be a minute or so while I'm looking for something to talk about.
Okay.
All right. So to start off, just real quick, what was your sensitivity in DPI? It looks a little bit shaky, or at least frantic with how our aiming style. So just, do you know what your sensitivity in DPI are at?
Yeah, let me check. I have Overwatch open.
Mhm.
I play on 800 DPI. I used to play on 1000, but I recently switched it. But right
Mhm.
now I'm on 800 DPI 5.3.
Okay, so that's not too bad. All right, I was just wondering to make sure before we start here. In a moment, we're about to get hooked by Hog. We just want to make sure that we are first off not super far forwards in front of our tanks, but then the other big thing is that we're just kind of out in the open here, and generally how positioning works in Overwatch and in most FPS games you're gonna find is that good positioning is the usage of cover, whereas bad positioning is the absence of cover. So a good, like, just as an example here, like if we're standing right here, they can see us, we can shoot from here, but it takes us half of a second to just go boop, right around the corner. Now nobody can shoot at us, we're safe, all good. But in our current position, we're really far away from any cover. It would take us multiple seconds to duck behind this corner, which means that in that time, we could end up dying very easily. So we just want to make sure we're using cover properly and we're not standing out in the open, especially when we're not using any shields to our advantage. So that's just the first thing here, and then that results in us getting down to 1 HP. And then I believe dying, yep.
Right.
And then we die, which of course dying isn't going to be very good for us, and it's not going to be
Yeah, I
fun
just
either.
tunnel vision quite a lot.
Hmm. Yep. So we
So I
just
feel like
want to make sure that when we're going to go and shoot at people, that we're not completely forgetting about where we're standing, right?
Tactical visor activated.
Yeah. So far, general mechanics look pretty solid.
I didn't warm up, so there's gonna be some clips where I just
Mhm.
completely whip. I'm generally a low sensitivity player,
Mhm.
and in a game like this, I felt like a high sensitivity was needed for all the movement and you know
Mm.
all the hectic stuff going on. So that's why it kind of explains the shaky aim and all
Mhm.
that.
All right. So, being a Counter Strike and CS:GO player, I'd imagine that you're familiar with crosshair placement as a term.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, currently the one thing I'm noticing is that we're aiming down quite a bit when we're looking around at people, and I'm noticing just a lot of body shots. So like we just look at our shots on Roadhog, we just body shots, body shots, body shots. Like even when he's frozen, right? We just want to make sure that we're prioritizing headshots because I'm just noticing us aiming down quite a bit, while also not aiming for headshots in an instance where like he's frozen and isn't moving. So we want to make sure that we are intentionally going for headshots and we're just
uh,
aiming at that level. Good.
uh, yeah. Just right there, I had no clue where his head hitbox
Hmm.
was. So I just, yeah, I just went for the body.
All right. One also there, just keep in mind that he's not gonna stay frozen, right? For the freeze only lasts for a couple of seconds, so high nooning here is pretty risky as he's just gonna get unfrozen and then kill you like he does. So like there we just the second that we start high nooning, he's just unfrozen immediately, which means that we're just gonna end up dying to that. As soon as we see him unfreeze, then we probably want to just cancel it because we have a Hog and a Diva just staring straight at us, which isn't the best high noon strategy, right? This is probably just gonna get domed here and dead, which does happen. So in general, not gonna want a high noon when somebody can just shoot at us super easily. There's kind of certain ways that we can get all away with a high noon, which we can go a little bit more into depth if I'm noticing that needs to be talked more on.
Yeah, my high noons are very
Mm-hmm.
bad.
All right.
You'll see some later on that are horrible.
Whoa there.
All
Wrong
right.
button.
Thanks. Put it on my tab.
Make sure that we are paying attention to our team and where they're all at. At the moment, we are pushing forwards and getting aggressive when we don't have half of our team with us. We are currently it is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 versus a 1, 2, 3, and that's essentially walking into a fight saying, "Hey, I want to lose before we even begin." Right? Like it's not very good for us to try to be doing this, and we want to make sure that we're paying attention. This is what you call awareness, or at least this fits into that category of being aware of our surroundings. And at the moment, we can tell this by just before we're pushing, make sure we're looking around us. And in this instance, we just don't have anybody with us, which means that this probably isn't a good idea, and we're just gonna lose this fight even before it begins. And then, as a result, we lose the fight, right?
Back in the saddle again.
The payload has come to a halt. Get it moving. Hordes and crusaders.
Nerf this.
Yeah, good job getting around the corner there. Hmm.
Get stabilized.
Payload's moving out.
Make sure prioritizing the Ana when she's like right next to you instead rather than the Diva, right? She's just gonna be an easier target to go to try to kill, and just higher value as well when she's like right next to us like that. Um, at the moment, we should probably be taking high ground. So at the moment, we're just going through a bunch of things. I'm trying to find like patterns and whatnot, so I might just touch on some topics, but then we'll go more into depth if they keep repeating. At the
Okay.
moment, we probably shouldn't just be sitting cart. It'd be probably much better if we went to a high ground to take the high ground. In general, I have not seen us taking high grounds as of yet. When this is a very high ground rich map, you have this high ground, that high ground. Over here, you have this high ground and that high ground. And then on third point, there's not as much, but I mean, you also have this high ground right here, and on third point, you have this whole high ground. There's a lot of high grounds on this map, and we haven't really been utilizing them. So let's talk about what makes high ground so fantastic. High ground, you have a lot of different benefits you get from it. First off, all of high ground acts as natural cover. You know, the cover stuff we were talking about earlier. Pretty much all of high ground is that. So they can see us, we back up away from the ledge, they can't see us. They can see us, we crouch, they can't see us, right? So that means that all of it's going to give us additional survivability. On top of that, most characters in the game can't just get up to you super easily. Like if you look at their team composition, like Junkrat is the only one, and Diva are the only ones who can get up to you instantly, and then even they requires them to use abilities, right? And then the other guys have to run all the way around to a pad, which means that it takes them a super long time, right? Now on top, good.
I mainly don't push for cart. I just, I thought having more than one person, it goes faster.
Yeah,
So
so
I thought,
I'll get to that in a moment. All right, I'll talk if that. Thanks for bringing that up. I'll explain why you don't need to in a moment. Okay, so just to clarify more on this note, right? Finally,
yeah,
you on a high ground, you have really great visibility. We can see all of the high ground. We can see left. We can see right. We can move to the other side and see over here and over there. Right, just tons of visibility. Whereas if you're just sitting on low ground, we can't see anything on any of the other side there, and we can't see any of the high ground. Right, so high ground just gives us a ton of visibility, and it's also going to be a pretty great spot to high noon from. Now, why you don't need to be sitting cart is because if you take a look at pretty much every single payload map, you're going to have roughly 2 fights, right? So that means you're going to have one fight that happens around this first bend area, right? One fight happens around here, then you're going to have another fight that happens around this second bend or the end, right? And it's basically you have to win 2 fights in a row. You have to win less than that, so you might sometimes only need to win 0 or 1 if you're getting a bunch of stagger kills. Or if you lose fights, then you might need to win more than 2, right? But it's roughly 2 in a row most of the time, and that's not going to change whether or not you have 1 person on cart or 3 people on cart. So
okay.
therefore, usually you just put 1 person on cart and you just let your Arissa puss. Ugh, that didn't come out right. You let your Arissa push, right? While you just take the high ground. That way you just have better position. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
All right. Yeah. I was so disgusted by this right here.
Okay, so this is a little far forwards at the moment. Nice headshot. Oof, nice shots. Yeah, general mechanics are looking pretty solid.
I'm on fire.
Team, heal up here.
Feel like a man possessed.
Tactical visor activated.
Yeah, I like that we're just getting a bunch of spam damage in there. That's good. Very nice.
Much better. Rest is
Nice shots.
don't move.
All right. So, nice cover usage there. That's good.
It's high noon. Draw.
All right, there we had a bunch of skulls. Just probably want to draw there. That way we just, aren't sitting still for so long. You're aware of that. Just because you're new, I just want to make sure you're aware of that fact. When they have their skulls, the skull icon, that's when it's fully charged and you can one-shot them.
Yeah, I just thought the shield was someone was gonna do some damage to the shield because I was calling it, but
Yeah.
it
In
didn't.
in this moment, honestly, I would just take the
Zarya.
Zarya, and then honestly, I think at the moment, if we move maybe to a little bit to our right, we might actually be able to get the Arissa in it too, because she's like standing on the very edge of that. But at the moment, it's probably worth it to just take the kill and then therefore not die, because usually you're not gonna want to die when you ult, because obviously dying just means that we lose like 10 seconds of respawn time, 10 seconds to walk back, so 20 seconds total. And then on top of that, we're just putting our team at a big disadvantage, which potentially can lose the fight for them. So there, we just probably wanted to exit that faster, immediately like roll to the side, that way we're not dying, and then now we just can't. That potentially ends up losing that fight. If they end up stalling it out, but I think we got it. But they get some more picks, which just means that they stall it out longer. Right, which if anything, that just wastes a bunch of time.
Tactical visor activated.
Oh, so in this instance, make sure we're paying attention, especially to like the McCree, because we gotta be watching out for those people walking back from spawn. Right here, we probably could have just kept shooting at Arissa. She was, I guess there's a shield that got in the way there actually. It's hard to tell when when the colors are mixed up a little bit there. But yeah, just paying attention to when the McCree's walking back is probably the big thing there. Just keep us from dying.
You look like you've seen a ghost. Dead eyes.
Nice kill. Make sure we're rolling away from him a bit faster. Sometimes it seems like we're dying a lot here, so I think survivability is something we might want to work on. Just staying alive.
Now, hold on. It's high noon.
Alright, so again, we're dying. So why don't we talk a little bit about high noons, but then also just survivability. We're dying quite a bit. I mean, like, it's not insanely terrible. Like, we're at 7 minutes. I don't think we had 1, 2, 3 on this point, like maybe 5 in total. Is that about accurate? So it's not like the worst death rate, but that is decently bad, because we like doubled, if in this game, if we where it's a 15-minute game, if we just doubled that, then that's a 10 deaths, which isn't the best death rate to have, and we're dying some deaths that are pretty easily preventable. The other thing to keep in mind is that we're dying some of these deaths where like we're kind of the first to die, which it usually some deaths are just outweigh those of others or worse than others. Like for example, when you die first, that's usually gonna be worse than when you die last, because when you die last, the fight was pretty much already over anyways. When you die first, you're putting your team at a disadvantage, because now they're going from it being a 6v6 to now it's a 6v5, and that means that you're more likely to lose the fight. Like we discussed before, you also lose 20 whole seconds, which 20 like times, like let's just say 20 times 10, right? And then divided by 60 for minutes would just be means that you'd basically be not participating in this game for an entire 3 minutes and 20 seconds, right? Which is a pretty nuts amount of time to think about, because that's the amount of time it could take you to get 2-3 ultimates. That's the amount of time that we could be in that amount of time we could be getting tons of kills, extra damage, be participating, be active, like not putting our team at a disadvantage during that time. In fact, putting them at kind of a neutral or even at an advantage rather. So we just want to make sure we're focusing on staying alive. Now, on that note, deaths, how to fix deaths is we want to look at all the different things that can cause deaths, right? We have to try to find what was the mistake. When you die, there's roughly 4 different reasons for someone dying. You have using your abilities wrong, which so far I haven't seen us doing too much of that. You have too much aggression, which I have seen some deaths that are too aggressive, like this one perhaps was a little bit too aggressive. You have being out of position, and you also have lack of awareness, which we've already seen some positioning deaths as well as lack of awareness deaths. So we just want to make sure we're identifying why did I die and then looking to fix it, thinking about if I was out of position, where could I have positioned instead, right? Now let's talk about some ultimate usage here. So when it comes to using your ultimate, you have a couple different ways that you can go about using it, right? You first off can go for a protection ultimate. So you basically would stand behind your tanks and their shields and use them to body block for you, and they just give you a bunch of cover. This is a very low risk, medium reward, or low risk, low reward in terms of value, because because you're in the front line, you're probably gonna be shooting a lot of shields and tanks, and so it's gonna be harder to get value. But you're going to be very unlikely to die from this angle, right? So low risk, low reward. That's what you kind of remember from this one. Secondly, this one's is where you take off angles or flanks to get off the high noon. So that would be this one would be kind of like that. But you could also like do something like coming up to the high ground to do a high noon, or like high ground on these over here to get a high noon, or just like wrapping around to the side or the back to get a high noon. Those are going to be a little bit riskier. Really depends on what one you're doing. I'd probably say usually kind of like a medium risk but very high reward, because you're getting around shields, you're getting around tanks, which means that you're going, and you also have a surprise advantage, which means that you're more than likely going to get a bunch of value out of it. And then finally you have a high noon where you can just sit really far in the back, so like something like this for example. This is a very again, it depends on like the situation, but a lot of times it's going to be a like medium risk, low reward one. So you just kind of have to address, figure out which situation are you going to use which. At the moment, this is just we will go for the off angle, but this is so close to them and there's so little cover that honestly this is a pretty dangerous one. So this one is probably a very high risk off angle to take, because it's just right next to them and it's super easy for them to know that you're here, and it wasn't really a surprise, and it's super easy for them to find you. So that, in comparison to something like this, might mean that they have a lot more time to just turn and shoot you in the head, right? Whereas something like this means that it's going to be harder for them to locate you and for them to shoot you. So we've done this one twice over here on the side, and then both times we died to it, right? So you can see how it's kind of a high risk one, just because we're like right next to them, which makes it super easy for them to see us and shoot at us. And when we're right next to them, then it's going to be like really easy for them to headshot us and do damage to us. So we just want to make sure that we're not dying when we're high nooning, so we can actually get value out of it. And then that's the big one here, so that we're just dying a ton, right? Because we died 3 times on this last one, and then we died once on the first point, and then maybe once, yeah, and then once on the second point. So we're roughly 5 or 6.
Back in the saddle again.
Where we stopped. Hit the letter. Move this payload.
Very nice. Yep, just general mechanics looking really solid. I like that we checked the corners there. You see some of that Valorant and CSGO training coming in. Okay. I haven't seen us getting too much value out of our roles here. So role has three different main uses. You can use it for mobility, which I have seen us doing a little bit. You can use it to dodge things, and which I've not really seen us do too much. And then you can also use it to reload your ammo, which again I have not seen us do too
Oh,
much.
I didn't even know that.
Okay, yep, well there you go then. So it will, when you roll, you will reload your ammo instantaneously, which is going to be good in a situation like this, where Orisa is like 1 HP, right? You get her down super low, and then we run out of ammo, we're at 0, and you don't want to wait the entire duration of a reload, because then she can maybe get away or escape or something. So if you just roll to the side, probably like into the wall or something, or like, I don't, probably to the left would be fine too, or backwards or anything. Right, if we just roll in a direction, then we just get the automatic reload, and then we can just keep shooting Orisa, which would make it so that we can secure the kill. Okay, little bit aggressive there. So sometimes I'm noticing us get a little bit too up in people's faces. So be aware that McCree is a mid-range character, and most of the times we're not going to want to just sprint at people, because McCree, there's just other characters who do better at a close range than McCree does. McCree's like a uh, close to mid-range character, right? But he doesn't want to be right in Reinhardt's face, because if you're right in Reinhardt's face, Reinhardt just does more to you. Now, there are going to be situations where you can get up next to people, like if they're low or it's just like a one-on-one, that's fine. But typically, you're not going to want to just roll into an entire team of people out in the open where like 4 people, 5 people can shoot at you, because that's going to be real dangerous and can end up getting you killed. So just be very, really careful. I've seen that happen a couple of times. And that's the type of thing that's going to get you killed. And then that puts us out in the open, ahead of our tanks, and then just ultimately ends up getting us grabbed, where I probably would say you just find a lot more value sitting here on the side where Soldier's at, because this is more of the range in which you want to be keeping on McCree. You don't want to be too far away, because that's going to give you fall-off damage and means you're doing less and less, and you're going to be less accurate from this range. But you also don't want to be like right inside of them. You want to keep kind of a close to medium range, whereas that we got a little bit too close. All right, so now we died 7 times ish. Haven't been like counting too closely. Nice headshots. Yeah, I like that we were taking left side and like kind of going for off angles. Apologies for the background noise there.
It's okay.
Nice shots.
Who's got the hot hand?
It's
All right, 1 second. All right, sorry about that. I just have a baby crying in the background at the moment. Apologies for that. I'm just gonna continue talking, so that we can get through some stuff here. So at the moment, you can see this once again that we kind of try to do the exact same thing with our high noon. Just keep in mind that when we're going for high noons, we want to make sure that like it's this, if we don't have any protection, that we're basically being secretive, that it's, and no, we don't already have people staring at us. If you go for the high noon and we already have people staring at us, then that's just asking them to kill you, because you're just standing still, letting them shoot at you. So in this instance where we already, when we turn the corner here and they already, all of them know that we're here, right? Moira knows we're here, Zarya knows we're here, like they all see us here, and they're all shooting at us, and we're also half HP when we start the high noon. Probably is a recipe for dying, and then now that means that out of the we've high noon 3 times and then died, or we've high noon 4 times, sorry, and died 3 of them, which just isn't a good ratio to have. That's an entire minute of gameplay that we've just wasted, and also put it like put our team at a big disadvantage. So again, the same exact thing. You'd probably just be better off like high nooning from here to break shields and to kill and maybe kill like one person than just suiciding with all three of them. Or maybe if you wanted to, you could just take in between fights. You could take a long wrap around and get up to here somehow. Like by wrapping all the way around the top left stairway, right, to get up there. That's an option as well. But we probably don't want to be high nooning when we already have people looking at us. We're at half HP and from not a great angle, right? So this is a fantastic angle to just go to shoot at people normally from, but probably not the high noon from. Right, and then now that's like death number 8-ish, which just means that we have a big survivability problem. So let's just go over strengths and weaknesses real quick. Just to review, what are we good at, what are we bad at, what needs the most work. Ability usage, not like insanely important. Like McCree has like out of all the other characters in the game has weaker abilities and ultimate usage than other characters. So even if they were like atrocious, like your high noon usage, no offense, then then it's not as big of a deal as if like your Zarya grabs were atrocious. But it is still a pretty big deal because we're dying every time we're using them. But just ability usage, we have like the one with roll where we just want to be using it more often, use it for a bit more diverse reasons besides just moving faster. And then flashbang honestly is looking pretty solid besides like the one time that we accidentally flashed cart. So overall ability usage is maybe looking like a yeah, ability usage is looking like a low to medium priority. Now ultimate usage is killing us a lot, and we haven't got too many kills with it. So ultimate usage, I would say, is like a medium high priority to work on. Just want to make sure we're not dying every time I use it, and also getting kills out of it. Then moving on, mechanics, honestly looking really solid. Just general mechanics of shooting at stuff looking good. I think we've hit a lot more headshots later on in the game, but at the very beginning of the game, we weren't necessarily aiming too much at high level. But I think you also said that you were warming up, so that's that's is going to be a reason for that. So for the most part, mechanics are looking really solid. There aren't really any other parts of mechanics that I would say that you're struggling with either. Usually you have a bunch of different things that go along with mechanics, and I haven't seen any issues with them. So mechanics is probably going to be a low, maybe like a low to medium, just for the warm-up part, but that's pretty much it. Now moving on, you have positioning and awareness. Positioning, I probably would say that we're doing all right in, though we're not. It's not the best. It's not the worst out of everything we have here. I would probably say that we positioning is like kind of a medium high-ish for now. We're dying a lot because we're out of position, and we're also just make sure we're using cover, right? Where good positioning is usage of cover, bad positioning is the absence of cover. Make sure we're taking maybe some better angles for high noon, and we're not just like doing it like right next to them. And then besides that, I like that we're taking off angles, like the one on the angle on the left, rather than, this would be the main angle right here. I like that we're taking an angle like this just to go shoot at people because it gets us around tanks and shields, which is really good. But and the other thing was just we wanted to take high ground as well, not just sit on cart. So whereas this one, on this point, honestly, this isn't as much of a big deal that you take this just because it's such a long wraparound. But I like taking this top left is also a good option. So overall, positioning's looking like a medium, maybe a medium high priority. Awareness, again, kind of looking around the same medium high. Sometimes we just don't notice when people are, when people are right next to us. And then actually, trying to think through this. What were some of the things with awareness we talked about? Mm, I guess the timing for our high noons. But trying to think. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, we haven't talked a ton about awareness. So awareness might actually go lower than for the moment, but awareness is also usually one of the slower ones to diagnose. So we'll just see. We'll adjust them as we go here. We're only halfway through the session. But that one maybe I'll put lower than I thought it was. We'll put that one on medium, maybe a low to medium. And then finally, I'd probably say the biggest one. Now, I don't always include this as a category, but I definitely think this applies right now. I would add this in as a category is survivability. And survivability is tied to the three main things are aggression, positioning, and awareness. And those are the main ones that have gotten us killed a lot here, as long as just using our ultimate poorly. And then when we've died 8 times this game so far, that's a pretty bad death rate to have because we're if it's a 15-minute game, that's almost like a death a minute. And that means that we're by the end of this game we might have like 13 deaths, which is in the best rate to have because it just means we're dead for a ton of this game. Right, that's a 4 minutes and 20 seconds of time that we are just not participating, while also basically that's our impact on losing fights, right? So we just want to make sure that we are not dying nearly as much as we are. Oh, maybe that 9 deaths. So now we are caught up to
Yeah.
one a minute. So like that one, right? If we're just looking at deaths to try to fix them, right? We'd go, okay, well we saw the high noon, but we just didn't duck behind cover fast enough.
I usually tend to play Bastion when it's defense, and once we lose like first point or whatever, I switch over to McCree.
All right, sounds
Or-
good.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Get this party started.
Yeah, good reload. I think the reload habits have been looking pretty solid. Very nice. Yeah, no tracking issues. Kind of rolling them. Yeah, you just want to be careful of like the hog hooks because that's like one of the things that can kind of ruin us here.
Get over here and heal up.
Okay, let's just watch for when things go terrible. Wait a moment. Oh, this is open queue. I
I
didn't even notice that. All right. So this is open queue currently that we're playing in, right?
yeah, I tend to play open queue because not only the queue time, sometimes I don't want to be stuck to a role because what if our supports are bad or frontline's bad or our damages are bad or I'm doing bad so I can switch with someone,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I
All
just
right.
like open queue more.
Sounds good. I just didn't notice until I saw the 3 tanks. Make sure we're not setting up outside of our shield. There we were kind of like in our shield, and then we just moved to the outside of our shield. So we just like, we were in it, and then we just moved to the right and set up outside of it. So we just want to make sure we're not
I
doing that.
thought the Reinhardt was gonna move and I didn't want to get cooked by the Hanzo, so I went into scout mode so he won't jiggle it.
Nice dodge of that, and then right after that we're free. Maybe you might want to let, like, pretty much after we've won that fight, we might want to just let our team kill them so that we don't, so we can give them some ult charge when we already have our ultimate. Like when you had so clearly won that when it was like a 6v3, right? That's just a situation where you can just leave it up to them. Maybe kill like one of them and just leave the other two for the team to kill. But yeah, besides that, not much has happened. Okay. Good decision to back up a little bit because that might have been hard for Reinhardt to shield us. Oh, Hog's feeding. Make sure we're reloading every time we can't see something, right? Anytime you have a lull in time where we're not shooting at stuff, we want to reload so we're coming in with 300 ammo, not 70, and then being forced to reload. Yep, there you go. Just slightly delayed. Okay, so now that they have a TP, we have to be real careful. Watch for where they're going to TP to. Probably ult when they TP in. And good decision to get out of sentry there. Massive TP. Make sure we're paying attention. So that's awareness, right, of the fact that Hog ran up top right. So first off, we know he's below, or we hear that he's below us, right? He just shot at us. We hear him like thumping around. He also just the big thing is just audio awareness here at the moment is that you just hear him thumping around down there. We want to make sure we're just paying attention to our stairway because this this hog just did a massive play where he came up to the high ground and cleared yes, 4 people. It's hard to tell. 4 people off the high ground and then just did a bunch of damage as well. So that's kind of a massive play. And we want to make sure we're paying attention to him so we can react faster, maybe pump some damage into him and then possibly get the kill. So just paying attention to him a little bit faster there. On Bastion, you can, because he has a delay with his gun between his shots, what you can do is you can heal yourself up in between shots on when he's in his tank form. So just in between each of your shots, just heal yourself up a little bit so that we're not sitting at 200 HP, but we're getting back up to full. Oh, was that a 3K in one shot? That's kind of nuts. Oh no, because we just got the hog before that, didn't we?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because we got the hog right there. All right, and then we got a 2K. Okay. Pretty solid. No real issues at the moment. Very nice.
60 seconds
Good decision to get up there. Honestly, not seeing much here. I wonder, like, are they? I don't even know if they're gonna cap. I guess they must cap.
No, they. I don't.
They don't, because there's 40 seconds and there's like 2 minutes or 1 minute left. Like a minute.
Oh, probably not. Then.
So maybe they just go into overtime. We'll see. So I don't know.
Yeah, about scout form, is it not accurate?
Yeah, it has scout form has a spread on it. So it's accurate for the first couple of shots, and then after that, it's going to start to spread out, and then therefore it's going to be less accurate. So it's kind of, think of it as the opposite of your in turret gun, where when you're sitting down, it's going to get more and more accurate the longer you shoot.
Okay.
Whereas it's the opposite when you're in your recon and your scout or whatever. It's going to start to spread out the longer you're holding it down. So when you're at like a super far range, you might be better off like tapping it. I don't actually. It's been a while since I've seen. Since I've played Bastion, so I don't know like how many shots it is that are straight, but you can try tap firing it so that you're getting just the straight shots when you're at like a super long range and you're using it. When something's like medium or closer to you, then you can just hold it down. But when you're at super long range, that's how soldier players used to play him until he got the recoil rather than spread change that they put on him. Was they would tap fire, so I would imagine you could do that on Bastion as well.
That explains so much.
Yep.
There was times where, because my first shots would land and the other shots would just completely miss, and I'm like, am I missing or what?
Yep. So you just tap them.
I knew there was a fair up top. I just thought I could kill the Junkrat a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And I could just escape.
Yeah, we just want to be careful because usually you're going to want to prioritize just staying alive over getting 1 kill. Right? That's just how it works on DPS is you don't want to go 1 for 1 or 0 for 1 or whatever because it just, or even sometimes like 2 for 1 because that's not a great KD on DPS, right? Usually you're going to want to like have a much higher KD than that, and when you're carrying, those are going to be the games where you have a whole bunch of kills and very little deaths, like when you're like 40-4, right? When you have like that 10 KD, that's how you know that you're really doing work and you're actually carrying your team, is when you have rates like that. Like here on Bastion, we've died 1 time versus like the probably like 14 kills we've gotten or something like that, right? Which is a pretty good KD. That's why we're doing much better here on defense than we were doing on offense, is because we were dying a lot less versus how many kills we were outputting. So we just want to make sure that we're not trying to go for the kill when it's going to end up killing us, when you probably want to prioritize your life, because then we can stay alive and continue to kill things. without dying, right? Hey, probably just come out here and just like ult. Yeah, in the situation, yeah, there you go. Just ult.
Heroes never die for a price.
There, just make sure we were destroying the tire. We at least again audio awareness, right? This is just make sure we're keeping our ears open and listening. Junkrat tires there. We hear him go fire in the hole, and we hear the tire coming in, and we like kind of look over there, and then we just don't, and then we see it, but we just aren't shooting at it, and then that means that it gets a kill on one of your teammates. So that's something we probably could have pretty easily stopped if we were just paying attention to it. Oh. That booped us off. Alright, and then I think that is pretty much it. Oh, make sure, usually Junkrat and Pharah are like pretty high damage, and if we don't have a shield or anything like that, you might want to just get out and not sentry up. There's times where we can sentry, times where we can, and we just want to make sure that when we just have a Pharah or Junkrat just sitting there shooting at us, they're gonna win that duel just because of we can't move and they have a bunch of high damage output. So you just make sure that we're getting out and we're going recon.
Okay.
Alright. So we did a lot better with survivability there on the Bastion than we did on McCree, though we still did die twice, and those deaths probably, again, could have been preventable. Then, you know, not every death will be preventable, but usually they're like 80% of your deaths, there's something you could have done better, right? Even if it, you know, it's just dying at a different time, right? Now, let me get that other one up here.
This one I was warmed up, so I played a lot more aggressive than the first game, and I did
Traveling to Dorado.
pretty good, I guess, on defense. Just definitely, I played the Bastion for like the first death, but I died like immediately, so I switched over to McCree because they had a Hanzo. But I did really bad on the attack.
Yeah, so same thing here. It's kind of, think of this as the exact same thing as a high noon, right? When you're standing still, which makes you a super insanely easy character to kill. So you only have really two choices here. Either you can use protection such as a shield or your tanks to stop them from being able to just shoot you for free, or you can do it as, from a surprise angle in which they're not expecting, and that would be, you know, the same thing as a flank or an off angle on McCree, right? You can do that as Bastion. Here, we don't have either of those. We don't have a shield, and we also don't have it's not an off angle, it's not a flank. We're not we don't have a surprise advantage, and therefore Hanzo's just gonna storm arrow us and melt us super insanely fast. So this is just a situation where we probably shouldn't be setting up and sentrying her here, right? So it's basically exact same concept as our McCree, right? And then that's why we die so fast. Or not a McCree. Yes, sir, McCree. For some reason I kind of tricked myself there. Right, just roll to get back faster. We just used it once there, I think. You can use it a second time just because it's a 6-second cooldown. You'll get it back pretty fast. Alright, I'm noticing, so I was maybe noticing it a little bit too last time, but I think I'm noticing a little bit harder here. Notice when we're shooting that we're going to kind of do flick ups with it. We go down, we go up. We go down, we go up. We go down, we go up. Right? Just watch us shoot. Right? We go up, down, up.
For some reason, I do that with single-fired guns. I don't know why.
Yeah, so that's just a habit we want to look to get out of because it's just going to really just make your shots that more inconsistent. Because it just doesn't serve any purpose, and it's going to mean that the more you have to adjust, the harder the shot is to hit, and therefore we're just making these shots unnecessarily hard when we could just aim smoothly in, like, you know, in the same spot and not adjust up and down too much. Just aim at head level and keep it there, and you only adjust up and down if you need to. and then that's just going to be much better for you. Really, the only times that we should be like, there's only specific instances in which flicking is necessary, such as a fast-moving target, so like a tracer's blinking around us, or when somebody just like appears on our screen, like someone's on our right side and we just all of a sudden have to flick over to them, or like if someone just like jumps up behind us, we have to flick around real quick. Those are situations where we need to flick, but other than that, you're not gonna want to just flick with every single shot we shoot because it's not a very effective aiming style, and it's just gonna be pretty inconsistent. So you see you do it a little bit more there. It's like hard to notice because it's like such a tiny, like I couldn't tell if it was just your gun recoil because it's just a tiny little up and
Yeah.
down like every
No,
time.
but no,
Yeah.
it is. I do that. I definitely do that.
Not a chance. Now, hold on.
Make sure when we're low HP that we're requesting healing. This is just gonna get us healing faster. Let them know where we are. That way we're not sitting at low health. Okay, mechanics looking really good besides just, you know, the thing that we were just talking about. Okay, probably can be taking the top high grounds here. Want to just make sure that in between fights that we're rotating to the best positioning possible. At the moment, in my head I'd be thinking, okay, I have high noon. I can probably flank with a high noon, right? So I go high ground, I get up here, right? This gets me around shields, gives me a secret, you know, it gives me a surprise advantage. I can go from top right here, or I can sneak along over here. As long as there's Junkrat up there, it might ruin it. So we just want to be careful of him, right? Or we can sneak up around here and then high noon from this angle, right? But we just want to be, and then even if we decided not to high noon, there's still really good angles for us. That's pretty safe. That's gonna get us really, you know, get us a lot of kills. So we just want to make sure that in between fights we're repositioning to the best place possible. And we're not just sitting main, because now we're just gonna be stuck shooting at Ryan and his shield and a hog and his 600 health. Oh, stop! I didn't mean to skip there. Flash him there, just cancels ultimate, and then also he's like really out in the open. We just wanna. I haven't seen us use flash a ton. Like I haven't been paying attention to it a ton, but just, you know, this is a real obvious situation where like flash would probably be pretty useful and handy, and it probably would get him killed too here. All right, so just an easy kill if we're paying attention to it. Make sure that we're not doing rotations in the middle of the fight if they're longer, right? We can do tiny little short ones. This one is maybe like on the brink of being acceptable because it's kind of like a medium medium distance time wise to rotate, but this definitely isn't something that's preferable when we could have done this at the very beginning of the fight, right? Because now, or sorry, in between fights, right? Now that the fight's happening, and we're doing this, now we're just putting our team at a disadvantage while we're going on the off angle, right? So we just want to make sure we're doing this during, like, in between fights, not during the fight. Nice high noon. Go slightly faster. Usually, how high noon works is if you get a bunch of skulls, go for it. The only reason why you'd hold on to it is if you feel like you're safe and you just want, but you can't get any current kills. So let's say, for example, they had a shield in your face and you're trying to charge it up more so you can kill more things through the shield. Or if, for example, they had absolutely nowhere to run and you just want to get some more kills and you feel like you're safe. So there's some situations where holding it longer is going to be fine. But in this one, really there wasn't any reason to hold it longer because here we high noon, we charge up 3, and then there, boom, that's 3 kills. We don't need to charge it up any more than that. But we keep charging, and then look, Junkrat just runs around the corner, right? And then that means that we end up missing out on a kill. So we just want to make sure we're high nooning, like, and kind of taking the max value there and taking the best, you know, making the best decision to get the most kills.
Feel like a man possessed.
Okay, nice kills. Potentially that drop was decently dangerous, and I don't know if it was. Yeah, I don't like pay attention to where your team's at because this was a pretty dangerous drop. Like Hog, let's look at Hog real quick. Where does he? He's at F9. He has hook on like 1 second. He's just not paying attention to you. Uh, and I probably say this is a situation where um, just because a mistake is not punished does not mean that it's not a mistake. This is probably a big mistake because we're getting really insanely aggressive, and they could, like, if Hog was just a better player, like let's say he was like one rank higher. Right now, what rank are you at currently?
Uh,
Gold.
I was, but I played the games yesterday and I ranked up to platinum.
Nice.
So
Congrats. So, let's say this guy's diamond, right? Just one rank higher, which is like your goal, I would assume, to like get rank up, right? Let's say he's diamond and he hears you and is mechanically good and he just turns around and hooks you real quick and then boom, you're dead. So this is just a situation where we got a little bit too aggressive, but we got away with it because these guys aren't as good, and you don't want to get into the bad habits of doing something just because you can get away with it, because then you're not going to be able to hang with diamond players. Like if you go into a diamond lobby, you're not going to be a diamond level player if you're making mistakes that diamond players will punish, right? So we just want to play as if we're playing at a higher rank, just because that's going to be the best way to not build up bad habits and to not make mistakes. And then here we just get a little bit too aggressive. Now let's hop into the end here. We're going to go over the main points, do a review, and also wrap up the session from there. Right, so on McCree, ability usage, make sure we're rolling. So your roll will reset all your ammo. So we shoot, we roll, we have all our ammo back to keep shooting. Right, it's gonna be faster than your just reload is. So if you're wanting to continue to shoot, there's a really good way to just get all your ammo back instantaneously. You can also use it for mobility, and you can use it to dodge things, especially with like when you're lower being pressured at or something like that. Make sure we're just using it a little bit more often, because we hold on to it sometimes when we're walking back from spawn. Remember, it's a 6-second cooldown, and most of the time you're not going to like need it instantaneously, so you can use it a couple times. You don't just need to use it one single time when you're walking back. Right, flashbang, make sure we're flashing when someone's right next to us, like the Reinhardt, for example, in the last game we were in. And then besides that, that's pretty much it with our abilities. Snap, I forgot I was going to go in order of main points, not just one or after the other. Sorry, I'm swapping up a little bit of the order in which I do things here at the end, but I forgot about that. So instead, keep in mind that's a pretty very low to the bottom of the list, but let's start now with number 1. So I'm kind of going out of order here. Number 1 main point out of everything we talked about, I'm probably going to put at our positioning. Positioning got us killed a bunch, and it also here, try to think. What do we put it at? Let's say positioning and survivability. We'll kind of tie those two, pair them together because they kind of went together a little bit anyways. We died a whole bunch because of it, and obviously we talked about how dying is really terrible for you, and you don't want to be dying. It's also not very fun, right? So we want to look at cut out our deaths. Then we want to make sure that we are using cover properly. You know, remember, good positioning is the usage of cover. Bad positioning is the absence of a cover. We want to make sure that we are taking high grounds and off angles, and we're not just sitting on cart, because that's not going to be usually necessary unless nobody else is on cart. Make sure in between fights we're taking the best positioning possible, but we're not doing longer rotations in the middle of fights, just because that can put us outside of the fight for too long. Do it in between them, preferably. Unless it's like a really short one or it's just kind of medium is acceptable, right? But long ones especially, you don't want to go on in the middle of fights. Now, that is pretty much it. Then survivability, make sure we're paying attention to all the things that can end up getting us killed. Make sure we're not dying all the time with high noon. That's one we want to practice at. Want to make sure that we are paying attention to our aggression, our positioning, and our awareness, right? So we're not dying all the time, so that we can look to have a better KD and survive and do things, right? Now moving on to number 2. Number 2 I'm probably going to put at let's put number 2 at ultimate usage. Ultimate usage, we died a lot when we used High Noon, right? Especially High Noon. I don't think it was nearly as bad when we were on Bastion. That ultimate wasn't nearly as bad on Bastion, but it was terrible on our High Noon, which just meant that we died a lot, and we also didn't very rarely got value out of it. So we want to make sure when we are going for High Noon that we're doing it from an angle that we're safe on. Remember the 3 different things that will keep us alive during a High Noon, right? 1, using team protection. 2, using using an off angle or a flank to get off a High Noon from, right? An off angle would be, this is the main angle right here, right? Off angle would be going high ground, right? Just to take that real quick and go for it. Flank would be like if we went all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, all the way around, right? So the flank is much longer. A flank can also be more dangerous, and you're not going to want to do those in the middle of fights. And on McCree, the only time we'd be going for that is if we're high nooning, and you want to make sure that's in between fights, right? Not just you're not doing that super long flank in the middle of it. Now
Stopping me.
moving on, let's go to the third one. Number 3 is going to be awareness. Awareness was just a big one. Got us, killed a bunch as well. Make sure we're paying attention to where the enemy team is, so that like McCree's now walking up right next to us, and pay attention to good flashbang opportunities, like when Reinhardt's right in front of us, and make sure that we're not, we're being aware of our surroundings, or we're not high nooning when people are looking at us. Pay attention to when you're up, where your team's at, and when you're up people or down people, so that we're not walking into a fight when we only have 3 people alive. And then besides that, just make sure we're keeping up our audio awareness, because there were a couple times when people like sneak up right next to us and we weren't paying attention. So just make sure we're paying attention to our surroundings, right? And then on from there, number 4 is going to be our probably say our ability usage. Just little tiny things here and there. We already talked about the review part of that. And then finally, last one is mechanics, looking really solid. Just want to make sure we're aiming head level constantly. We're not doing these micro flicks up and down to where we're doing this. Those 2 bottom ones might be interchangeable. I might actually put mechanics above it, but they're both near the bottom. Just make sure we're not doing this, right? And we're not doing unnecessary flicks, and we're aiming at head level constantly. And then besides that, that is pretty much it. Do you have any questions about anything we've gone over?
No, but I do have a question about I'm not saying right now, but when I do improve, I know this game's kind of dead compared to Valorant, so where would I look for a group? Because I tend to play a lot more with a person or a group.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of
So, like,
not a big fan of solo queue.
yeah, so where can you find a group? Well, you can find, friends and make those just in game. Like, if you have someone on your team who you like, or you just, sometimes, like, I've even in the past just, like, had an enemy that was like, oh, snap, you're pretty good. You want to group up or something like that? Like, I actually, the first team I ever got on, I met the guy who was from the team just because he was on the enemy team, and he kind of rolled me. So that's, that's those are options, obviously. And then you can also join some Discord servers to look for groups. There are some Discord servers out there that have like looking for group features in them. And then yeah, if you're interested in those, then I can maybe link you to a couple. Though I'm not necessarily, I don't use that function, so I might not be in like all of them. You can definitely look around for more. But that is the other place I would say. And then I'd probably say usually you're not gonna find too much success using the looking for group feature, especially the higher up in ranks you go. If you're like right now, honestly, you could probably find a couple that are decent. But when you get like super high, then you're not gonna really find many people using the LFG. All right. That answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Whoa there.
So anything else?
No, not really. I
I'm on a roll.
All right.
understand most of it, and I guess since I got the 2-hour pack, I'll hit you up whenever